just to have for extra support, since we're going to spend a lot of time on the floor. But I'm not going to use it just yet, just to have it for later in the practice. And that's all I have. If you don't have a blanket, you can always use a towel or even certain kinds of cushions. Some people have knee cushions. Those can be really nice. But for now, let's just go ahead and start on the floor, start on your back. Bring the knees into the chest and just give them a squeeze. Starting to feel into the back against the floor, the torso against the thighs, your arms holding the legs. Maybe sensing the weight of the body, the weight of the legs on the torso. Just allowing yourself to drop down with gravity. I think a lot of times we throw around this word grounding to get grounded, ground yourself. And one of the things that I find really grounding is feeling into the weight of my body. Allowing myself to work with gravity. To let it help me feel connected to the earth. And my body in the present moment. Rock side to side a little bit. It can be an interesting way to explore the weight of the body. Just feel it kind of sliding from side to side. Maybe feeling the head as well. Sensing into the weight of the head. And when you're ready, come back to center, hug the knees again, maybe changing the cross of the arms. Sensing the belly, maybe the ribs, moving against the legs with the breath. And today I'm going to talk about an acronym called STOP, S-T-O-P. And the S also stands for stop. The T is take a breath. The O is observe. The P is proceed. And so the idea is this is a resource that we can have at any point in the day. When we find ourselves in a moment of stress, or even just in random moments throughout the day, to just stop, take a breath if that's grounding to you, but you can also take a pause, drop back into the body, and just observe how you are responding to the situation. It could be on physical, visceral level. Could be your thoughts, just observing what is going on, how it feels to be in your body in that moment. And then with that awareness, to then proceed. It's a lovely tool to work on this idea of responding rather than reacting or falling into the usual habit patterns that we can when we find ourselves in moments of stress. So throughout the practice, I'm going to offer this as something that we can do, because it's great if you remember to do it in moments of stress, but a lot of times we need to build up to that and experiment with doing it in more neutral moments so that the resource feels more available in moments of stress. But we'll practice it a couple of times here, and note too that it's available to you at any point in this practice, and you are always welcome to stop and take a breath, observe what's happening, and proceed. In fact, that is extremely welcome and encouraged. So if you like, you can start to loosen the arms and bring the thighs so that they're now perpendicular to the floor, and lift the shins so that they're parallel to the floor. You can bring the hands on the thighs if you like. Maybe let the shoulders sink into the floor again. Feel some engagement in the core. Noticing how it feels to breathe here. And then if you like, bring the arms out to a T. I don't quite have enough room to do that. And then start to let the knees fall over to the right. And then drawing them back to center. Just letting the knees go down as far as feels like a nice stimulation of the abdominals. Maybe again, just feeling the weight shift, pelvic bowl, roll back and forth. Maybe noticing your experience of weight leaving center and returning to it. This reminder that when we find our alignment, whatever's right for our body, that'll look different for everybody else. We can create the level of engagement that we want. When you bring the knees back to center, let's try that STOP acronym. Just stop here, take a breath. Observe what's happening in the body. What's happening in the mind and the heart. And then decide how you want to proceed. Do you want to continue to engage the core, let the knees go side to side? Or would it feel better to bring the knees back into the chest? Or maybe there's another option that I haven't presented to you. What we're practicing here is observing and then making the best choice for our own bodies. If you'd like to try something new, another engagement of the core, you could bring the knees into the chest and then send the left leg long while squeezing the right thigh in, and then switch. Alternating sides. Maybe bringing the breath into it. Exhaling when a knee comes in, inhaling as you change. Or you're welcome to hang out in one of these for a couple of breaths and then switch. What's the pace you want to move in today? Maybe you want to increase the engagement and lift the head toward the knees. Knowing that you can stop at any point if you want to. But if you'd like, maybe continuing to do this for a count of 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then bringing the knees back into the chest, letting the head release on the floor. Letting the belly relax. Maybe taking a couple deep breaths if that's grounding to you. Or just watching the movement of the body with the breath. Your natural breath. We put right knee in the chest and either let the left foot rest on the floor, bent knee, or extend the leg long. Might flex both feet. And from here, start to open the knee out to the side. Imagining that you're still pressing that left hip down toward the ground so that the pelvic bowl is still pretty level. If there's any tension in the shoulders, you're welcome to soften there. Softening in the neck, the jaw, face. You can stay here with the knee bent or lengthen the leg. Still letting that left hip move toward the floor. It's grounded. Let the leg cross to center. And start to let it move across the body, maybe taking just a little micro bend to protect the knee. See how far it wants to cross with that right hip still connected to the ground. Taking a couple breaths here into that IT band, the side of the leg, that outer side. Just noticing the sensations that are coming up. And then bend the knee and let the leg cross all the way over. And maybe bend that left leg as well, just coming into a supine twist. Head might face the ceiling or face the left or right shoulder, just depending on what feels most peaceful for your neck. Where do you experience this twist in the back and the ribs? How does it feel to breathe here? Maybe taking 3 more breaths here, knowing you can exit this sooner if you'd like. Everything I offer is suggestion and only that. This is your practice. If you're ready, come back to center. Squeeze the leg into the chest one more time. And then change sides. Left knee into chest, right leg long or bent. bend with the sole of the foot on the floor. Maybe sensing into that right hip flexor, the front of the right hip. Maybe sensing how it stretches, elongated like this, a nice antidote to sitting in a chair. And then open that left knee out to the left, rooting down in that right hip. Maybe you even place your right hand on the hip. Still breathing. Softening where you can soften. Maybe lengthen that left leg. Just noticing what you notice. Draw the left leg to center and cross over to the right, rooting down in that left hip as the heel reaches away. A little micro bend in the knee. Stopping when you find that intelligent edge of your stretch. Maybe sending some breath into the outer edge of the leg. Noticing if the breath feels choppy or labored at all, that could be a sign to move back a little bit. And then go ahead and bend the knee and find your supine twist on the other side, bending both knees. Arms could be out in a T or resting on the body. Just letting the body sink into the floor. No need to support yourself in any extra ways. The floor has got you. Maybe sensing into the legs if there's any residual tension there. We're watching the ribs and the back and how they respond to the breath. And if you're ready, draw that left knee back into the chest, lengthen through the right leg. One more squeeze. Draw both knees into the chest one more time. Maybe a little rock. Drop the feet to the mat, knees still bent, and scooch the heels back so that they're so close to the sit bones you can graze them with your fingertips. Lift and spread the toes. Start to find that connection with the ground and the feet. sort of equal connection from the toes to the heel. And with your next inhale, roll up, pressing the hips up for bridge. Notice how the shoulders are feeling. If you want to walk them under the body a little bit. If you feel any clenching in the buttocks, maybe shift the focus to the feet, the heels energetically pulling toward the sit bones, bringing that more into the legs, activation, maybe engaging the belly a little more as the ribs knit toward one another. And then with your exhale, roll down vertebrae by vertebrae. You see if you notice each one come in contact with the ground. And pause here, let the spine be neutral. Maybe sensing into how the back is connecting with the floor after that back bend. Seeing if it's possible to release the legs just a little bit, any residual engagement that might still be there. And with an inhale, press into the feet again, roll up to bridge. And this time, if it feels okay, you can walk the elbows in and bring the forearms up so the fingers are pointing toward the ceiling like little robot arms. Sensing into that, how that activates the shoulders. You can either stay here or reach the arms up and then over, like a 30-degree angle from the floor now. You can play around at that, find where it feels good in your body. Still breathing. Still bringing that activation into the legs and the belly like you did before. And leaving the arms where they are. Lengthen through the spine as you lower it down. So the tailbone is just getting a little bit further away from the crown of the head with each spine, each vertebrae that touches the mat. And then release the hands down to either side of the hips. And pause again. Just noticing the difference in those two experiences. Another opportunity to take that stop acronym. Pausing. Taking a breath, dropping back into the body. Observing. And then with that information, making a choice to either lift the hips up without the arms or to bring the arms into it. Whichever was more interesting to you. You could also just choose to stay where you are and rest. Often that's the best choice for our body because it's a wonderful choice. And when whenever you're ready, roll back down, vertebrae by vertebrae. Letting the hands settle on the body. Bring the feet out to the width of the mat and let the knees fall in toward one another. Just to let the spine neutralize a little bit. Constructive rest. You could even take little windshield wipers to help release the back. Staying with the experience in the hips, the legs, torso, even a little bob of the head and the neck. And awareness of your breath. The next time the knees fall over to the right side, roll over to your side, and then start to press yourself up for a comfortable seat. I'm going to take this as an opportunity to grab my blanket and fold it a couple of times and sit on the edge. And cross the legs in Sukhasana. But if you'd be more comfortable seated in a chair or kneeling, those are options too. Whatever shape you find, sense into the sit bones. And this sort of center of gravity in the hips, pelvic bowl, all these organs. Just letting it be heavy and dropping down toward the earth. Letting it be supported by the bones. And finding your unique alignment, that lengthening of the spine that allows the least amount of effort in the body to stay upright. You might shift forward and back a little bit or side to side, just experimenting even with where that is for you. And as you start to center in on that, just watch the belly. Noticing that push and pull between a little bit of engagement that helps keep the body aligned, and also this nudging of the breath. Belly softening and then drawing back. Bring some awareness to this head, this heavy head balancing on the spine. And let the head start to drop forward. Feeling that weight, and how the spine responds. And then come back to center and lift the gaze, dropping the head back but not letting it go completely. Still keeping some support in the neck. And noticing how the chest and the back respond to that. You can keep going back and forth or start to find some circles. Just watching the head shift away from center. Watching how all the bones and muscles in the neck, down the back, shift, engage, soften, depending on where the head is in space. If you want to go the other way, start to do so. Noticing if there's any tension in the jaw or the face. Welcoming some softness there. And if you're ready, come back to center. Finding that long, relaxed spine. And then throwing it off balance again, letting that left ear approach your left shoulder. I'll mirror you. You bring the right fingertips to the ground, tented. Or start to play with the level of the arm. Moving it forward and back, up and down. How that ignites different muscles. Could feel nice to find some circles. And then start to go the other way if you're finding circles. Could even spin the palm up and down. Just exploring this connection from the jaw all the way to the fingertips. Where do you feel tenderness? Where does it feel really good to get some length, some stretch? And then find center, sensing into both sides of the neck. Noticing the difference between the one you worked with and the one you're about to work with. May your right ear fall to your right shoulder. Checking back in with the breath. Maybe tenting the fingers on the floor. Softening the jaw. Sensing into the sides and back of the neck. So you start to play with the level of the arm. Or if it's forward or behind you. And finding some circles. Maybe going the other way. Spinning the palm up and down. Flexing and curling. What's interesting to you? And then if you're ready, come back to center. Stopping to breathe and observe. And then maybe you start to roll the shoulders. Kind of listening in. If there's any grinding or popping, then you might want to make the movement just a little bit smaller. And then bring them forward. Just noticing where you feel these shoulder rolls. Could be in the trapezius or the scapula, moving along the ribs, along the back. Maybe you're sensing this in the collarbones. Let the shoulders settle back down the back. And then find circles with the ribs, letting your weight shift from sit bone to sit bone. Even let the head come into it. See how that changes the sensation. Could try letting the head move with the ribs or as a counterbalance, moving in the opposite direction of the ribs. How does that feel? And then start to shift the other way. Taking any experiments on this side that you would like, could be the same, could be different from the other side. When you're ready, settle back into center. Finding your long, relaxed spine. And move a blanket to the side if you had a blanket underneath you. Lengthen the legs forward. Draw your left knee into your chest. And then two options here. You could either let the knee fall out to the side for a Janu Shirshasana, pressing the sole of the foot into the thigh. Or you could cross the foot over the leg and then let the knees stack over one another for a half cow-faced pose. Finding those sit bones again and letting the spine lengthen from that space before you start to tip forward. A little micro bend in that extended right leg, protecting the knee. Could try flexing that right foot, spreading the toes. Breathing into whatever sensation you discover. Knowing that if anything doesn't feel right to your body, then please listen to your body first. Walk back up. And lengthen that leg. We'll take the other side. Right knee into the chest now. Either falling open into Janu Shirshasana or crossing the foot over and letting the knees stack again for that half cow-faced shape. Lengthening as you lower over these legs. Breathing into the calf, the hamstrings. Sensing into the bottom of that flexed foot. Still breathing. And then unwind. Both legs lengthened. If you were taking Janu Shasana for your knees, then I'm going to recommend that you cross one leg in front of the other. Maybe start with the right leg in front of the left foot. If you're taking the half cow-faced shape and would like to take the full shape, you can cross that leg over and then bend your right leg so that both sit bones are on the ground. And experiment with how close the ankles come to the hips. It's a little less intense for the hips and knees if it comes in closer to the hips usually, but of course everybody's body is different and can become more of an intense stretch as the feet move away from the hips into a wider shape. And I'll take my socks off so you can really see where my feet are better. And if you're struggling to have both sit bones on the ground, then I might recommend going back to the half cow-faced shape. Just sensing into the knees too, if they're feeling sensitive at all. Again, going to the Sukhasana, right leg crossed in front, or a half cow-faced shape are great options. From here, let the arms come out to the sides. Wrap the left arm underneath the right, starting to let the backs of the hands move toward one another as you lift the elbows so that they're shoulder level. And you can either let the backs of the hands meet, if they meet. You can also have them sort of approach or start to bring the palms of the hands together for eagle. Rooting down in the sit bones as the spine lengthens. A little bit of engagement in the belly, but still enough softness to allow the breath. And you can stay here or start to lean forward. Maybe just taking a moment to think about all of the ways the body is twisted around itself in this moment. You know, the legs crossed, the arms winding around one another. Where is everything relating to everything else? What's your sense of where your arms and feet and legs are in space? If you close your eyes and just feel them. Maybe breathe into them. Watching the breath travel through their twists and windings. Come back to center. Release the arms, reach them out to the sides. Let them rest on either side of the hip. Start to unwind the legs. Let them come all the way out into a wide-legged shape. And again, reach the arms out to the sides. Drop your left hand to the floor. Press down in that right hip as you reach over to the side. And then come back up to center. And drop over to the other side, reaching through the left arm now, pressing down in that left hip. Lengthening as you lean over. You're still letting that shoulder move away from the ear. Thinking about where the chest is, you might spin it up just a little bit toward the ceiling. Draw the ribs in to help the spine lengthen. And then come back up to center. And we'll take the other side for the cow face shape. This time, taking whatever variation was right for you. Maybe letting that left leg cross over and then, your right leg cross over and then your left leg mirroring you, but a little twisted around. Letting the knees stack over one another. Just being really conscious and aware of the knees and the hips. And if the sensations there feel supportive, feel interesting, or if they feel kind of icky in the joints, and making a decision for what shape is best for you with that information. Reach the arms out to the sides. Sweep the left or your right arm underneath the left this time. Either letting the hands meet, backs of the hands, or approach one another, or bring the palms of the hands together. Lifting the elbows to shoulder level if that feels all right to your elbows. Lengthening through the crown of the head as you move down your sit bones. And then starting to lean over. Breathing. Imagining the breath traveling through all these twists and spirals to the palms of the hands, the fingertips, the soles of the feet, toes. And then unwinding again. Reaching the arms out to the sides. Letting the hands rest by the hips. Opening up the legs again to a nice wide leg stretch. The absolute opposite of what we were doing before. Maybe tipping forward and tucking back until you find that nice upright, balanced space for you on the sit bones. Reaching the arms up, maybe steepling the fingers, lifting the gaze, and then leaning over to the side. Deciding if you like to take this shape with both arms up, or if you'd rather let a hand come down to the ground. What's most interesting to you in this moment, or supportive. And then come back to center. We'll do the other side, maybe changing the clasp of the fingers. Rooting down in the sit bone that you're reaching away from. Reaching up and then twisting toward your left leg. Moving just from the ribs, letting the arms come down into a cactus shape. And maybe letting them frame that thigh, lifting long, and then starting to walk forward over the leg. Moving from the ribs, start to lift up and unwind. Reach the arms up. Let the hands meet and draw them down the midline. Just taking a couple of those. Reaching out and up, pressing through the heels, flexing the toes. And then twisting as the arms come to the cactus. Looking over that right leg now. Maybe framing the thigh. And starting to walk forward. Still the sense of a micro bend in both knees. Pressing down into the left calf and thigh. And lifting, moving from the ribs, unwinding. And we'll start to come back down to the floor. Maybe moving the blanket out of the way. Rolling back, taking the knees into the chest. Couple breaths here. Taking another moment to stop, to breathe, to observe what's happening in your body in this moment. And then from that space, decide how you want to proceed. If there's any shapes you want to take before your final rest, now's the time. I'm going to offer a figure 4, so if that sounds good to you, you can let the left foot come to the mat and cross the right ankle over the thigh, either staying here or interlacing the hands around that left thigh and pulling the leg toward you. Breathing into the hip. Keep rocking a little side to side. Unlace the fingers. Let the foot return to the mat. Drop the right foot down to meet it, and we'll take the other side. Crossing the left ankle over the right thigh this time. Interlacing the hands behind the thigh and starting to pull that leg toward the body, or letting the foot rest on the floor. Letting it unwind here. Maybe coming back to some rocking or stillness. foot come down to the floor. Left foot as well. You could either take constructive rest again, letting the knees fall into one another as the feet are about width apart. Or if you want to get into the hips a little more, you could take a happy baby, grabbing the outer edges of the feet, tucking the elbows inside the legs. Lifting and bending, and lifting the legs and bending in the knees so that the soles of the feet are facing the ceiling. Maybe extending through one leg and the other. Exploring whatever shape you're in. Through movement or stillness. When you're ready, releasing the legs, settling down onto the ground, gathering whatever support you'd like. Maybe taking that blanket and bringing it underneath the knees. If you have any tenderness in the low back, or you could bring that blanket underneath the head and neck for some extra neck support. So whatever would be the most supportive to you in this moment, take the time. So you can let go, allow yourself to be held by the floor, blanket. Just watching the back release with time. Scanning the body for any places where you hold some habitual tension and just inviting those spaces to soften, like the brow, the jaw, the legs, belly, wherever that may be for you. Knowing that whether it releases today or another day, that's okay. Just holding the experience as it is. Not asking it to be any different than as it is. And start to sense the body breathing. Noticing if by observing the breath, if you change it at all. And trying to soften back into observation, just letting the body breathe itself. Simply witnessing. Sometimes when we're really relaxed, the breath is quite light, quite small, as if we're sleeping. Notice what your breath wants to do in this moment. Noting the pauses between the breaths. Or if that's not grounding for you, you might come back to that sense of the weight of the body. Spreading out on the floor. Start to wiggle the fingers and the toes. Roll out the wrists or ankles. You're welcome to do so. Maybe reach the arms long above the body. And start to roll over to one side at your own pace, your own time. Pressing yourself up to a comfortable seat whenever you are ready. Maybe grabbing that blanket again. Letting the hands rest on the legs. Finding those sit bones again. And letting the spine stack on top. Ears over shoulders, shoulders over ribs, ribs over hips. Maybe bring the hands into prayer or over the heart to seal the practice. The light in me sees and honors the light in you. Namaste.